So, Ben, is it me, or is the pace of change and the impact of change politically happening around the world speeding up exponentially?
I would say it is.
And the impact that's having on us from the event standpoint is just huge.
It is huge. And as you can imagine, the world is looking at each different location very differently. But an example of change that we thought would never happen is the issue of Brexit. And actually, we're sitting here in Cleveland today, and today the Queen of England signed the Brexit bill. So the United Kingdom will cessate from the European Union. It's now a fact. People are anxious about these things because these are massive trends that affect our lives. Everything we do, everything. And it has an effect on meetings and events. So when the first vote happened about Brexit, in Maritz Global Events, I got calls from people to say, so what do we do now? What do we do? Does it have an effect? What does this mean for the events industry, et cetera, et cetera? The answer to that is, who knows? Nobody knows. I've been on several Brexit panels because that's the region that is where I live. And really, that's the answer. Nobody knows. We know that it will have an effect.
Right.
We know that it will have an impact in terms of economic development. It had an immediate effect because the currency, the pound sterling, went down in value, which meant that actually business became a lot cheaper to do working in the United Kingdom.
Yep.
So suddenly there were clients who were saying, can we expedite contracts because the exchange rate is now so favorable? Can we do it now?
Right.
Can
Let's
we
take
pay
advantage
now?
of it.
Let's
Right.
take advantage of it.
I think you're right. Something as big as Brexit, I don't know that we could impact. But when I think about some of these other issues that are starting to come into play, whether these are travel bans, the visa restrictions, I think that's an opportunity for us in this industry to actually mobilize and start speaking up. I think this is clearly short-sighted. This doesn't help the movement, free movement of people, attendees and speakers and scientists and everybody that we count on to be part of our industry, to educate the world. We have to have this ability to travel freely and present. And I think anything that restricts that, we have to do a better job of speaking up and speaking against. And obviously, we're living this right now in the United States. And it's had immediate impact with my clients, with folks picking up the phone saying, move the meeting out of the United States. We're a global organization. We've got people from all over the world coming. And this is not an atmosphere we can support holding our meeting in. So all of a sudden, we've got booked business that is now going. We've got people looking to cite future business and saying it's not coming to America because of the stance the government is taking. And that's A, concern over the very real people who are impacted, but B, it's an emotional political reaction to, we're not going to support the United States if this is your new position. So decisions are getting made that are going to result in real money disappearing from the economy, and I worry about thought leadership disappearing from the United States. And we went through this a little bit after the Iraq War. So we've been through this cycle before, and I think that's why the voice of our industry, both globally and nationally, has got to be elevated so that people really understand the impact of what's happening.
So do you think that we should be latching on to the bigger issue around that as well? Because obviously it's affecting the meetings industry, but it's affecting the travel industry as well. So it'll affect, movement of people in terms of holidaying people,
tourism.
Which is massive, So do you think that that's
I think
so should we be working
right.
together in the same sort of atmosphere? It's a different argument to make.
We should, because that's big. That may bring us some bigger players to come to the table. However, I always worry about letting business events get captured under tourism or hospitality or general travel, just because I think our value is beyond that. But in this case, if it's about restricting free movement of people, then I think, yes, let's go with where our allies could be and should be. And again, I think that it comes to companies like ours to be engaged to really be out front and speaking with that. And certainly we know the president of Maritz plays an active role in this. I play an active role in this to really elevate the dialogue and try and have an impact at the policy level to help people understand our industry and what these decisions mean economically for the United States or for any of the nations that are involved. You know,
Yeah,
who knew that we'd now be talking about maybe reversing the visa policy for all of Europe for Americans?
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
That's the discussion we're having right now, which is just crazy.
Yeah, this is just to clarify that there's a question about visas, asking for visas in Europe because there are three nations in the European bloc that have to ask for visas coming into the US, and now the European Union is talking about the reciprocal fact of asking for visas. That will have a massive effect on everything. That's going to make life so much more complicated.
Yeah, we're
The
going
other-
backwards, right?
Yeah,
In
we're
so many
going
ways
back-
we're going
yeah, we're
backwards,
going
and you're like,
backwards
man,
to-
oh man.
We're going backwards to, I don't even know when.
Yeah.
You know, that's a long time ago.
And we have to advise our clients on this now, right?
Absolutely.
So part of, again, the value of, I think, the partnership that we have is the broad global experience and broad global view to be able to work with clients through the decisions that they need to make for their events. And as we know, each one and every one is different. Who's coming, what are the messages, what are the outcomes we want to do? But there's now, again, a whole level of discussion we need to have. We talked a little bit about securities now, a new discussion we have to have with our clients, but this whole issue now about the political impacts and the global changes and the impact that has on the events they want us to produce for them, we have a whole other discussion that now has to be had.
And there are two things I think you've highlighted already. One is to be able to advise our clients on, you know, the actual fact that this is happening. People need to know this. And the second component is to do what we can to have a voice in this. So you just talked about the president of Maritz Global Events and the role that Maritz is taking, or Maritz and Experience are taking in Meetings Means Business. And the coalition for Meetings Means Business is really hugely important. It's never been more important. Again, it comes down to communication, but it's never been more important to work together on these major issues, because that's what we owe our clients, and that's actually what we owe the world.
Well, and I think the other piece of this is the Meetings Mean Business, I think, is clearly beginning to have an impact. But I think the other thing that we need to do better at as an industry is really conveying the value of business events beyond the economics.
Right.
And we've got to be talking globally about the knowledge transfer, about investment, about everything that these events mean to local economies, which is way more, as we both know, than just the heads and beds and dollars delivered by virtue of one event. It's way beyond that in terms of what the impacts actually are, but we don't talk about that enough, and we need to.
That's right.